It was a chilly night when I realized I was late for the bus. The streetlights flickered ominously as I hurried to the bus station, the shadows growing longer in the dim light. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves. As I arrived, I noticed the station was eerily deserted. The usual hustle and bustle of travelers was absent, replaced by an oppressive stillness. I checked the schedule. My bus was running late. With a sigh of frustration, I took a seat on the cold metal bench, my breath visible in the frigid air. Minutes passed, stretching into what felt like hours. Just as I began to consider calling a friend for a ride, I heard the faint sound of a bus approaching. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the deserted station. The bus came to a slow stop and the door creaked open. Inside, the bus was dimly lit and empty, except for the driver, a figure shrouded in shadows. His face was obscured by a worn cap, but I could feel his eyes boring into me. Hesitant but desperate, I stepped on board. As I took a seat, the driver glanced at me, his voice gravelly and low. "Where to?" he asked. I told him my destination, and the bus lurched forward, leaving the station behind. As we traveled, an uneasy feeling settled over me. The road outside was desolate, lined with twisted trees that seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. I glanced at the other seats, but they remained empty, a cold dread creeping over me. Then I noticed something strange. The bus didn't seem to take the usual route. We passed familiar landmarks that flickered like bad memories, twisting into shapes I didn't recognize. The driver remained silent, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Suddenly, the bus hit a pothole, jolting me in my seat. I looked out the window and gasped. Outside, the landscape had transformed. The trees were now blackened stumps, and a thick fog rolled in, obscuring everything. I felt an inexplicable urge to leave, but I was trapped in this moving coffin. "Are you okay?" the driver asked, his tone unnervingly calm. I nodded, though my heart raced. Just then I spotted something out of the corner of my eye, a shadow, darting across the road. It was a figure, pale and translucent, standing just at the edge of the fog. "Don't look!" the driver barked suddenly, but it was too late. I was drawn to the figure, a woman in a tattered dress, her face twisted in anguish. She raised her hand as if pleading for help, but I felt an icy grip on my chest, paralyzing me. The driver slammed on the brakes, and the bus skidded to a halt. The woman vanished, and an oppressive silence enveloped us. "You shouldn't have looked," the driver murmured, his voice now laced with malice. "Now she'll follow you." Panic surged within me. I bolted to the door, but it wouldn't open. I pounded on the window, but the darkness outside pressed in like a living entity. "Let me out!" I screamed, but the driver just laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the empty bus. The air grew colder, and I felt the presence behind me, the woman's anguished spirit seeking vengeance. I could almost hear her whispers, pleading for release. In that moment, I realized the bus was a trap, a conduit for lost souls. Desperate, I turned to the driver. "What do you want?" I shouted. "Let me go." His eyes glinted with malevolence. "You've seen too much. Now you're one of us." With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged for the emergency exit, praying it would open. It swung wide, and I stumbled out into the fog, gasping for breath. Behind me, I could hear the bus doors slam shut, sealing my fate as the driver cackled in the distance. I ran into the darkness, the cold grasp of the spirit hot on my heels. I could feel her presence closing in, the weight of her sorrow dragging me down. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest streetlight, its warm glow pushing back the shadows. I turned to look back, but the bus was gone, swallowed by the night. The woman lingered at the edge of the light, her eyes filled with despair, forever trapped between worlds. I made it home that night, but the memory haunts me still. I never took that bus again. Sometimes late at night, I hear whispers in the wind, and I know she's still out there, searching for someone to take her place.